Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to After the Credits, episode 58. I'm Darren. This is Taz. Hello,
How's it going?
Taz.
How's
How's
it
it
going?
going?
It is good. It is good. How are you?
I am doing well. You might be wondering, where'd the title go? What's this random thumbnail? I've been
What timeline
promoting
are we
a
in?
I know I was promoting a whole other episode today, but due to some scheduling issues, some commitment stuff I have to bring up later, we decided just to do a classic Darren and Taz, and maybe Darth if he shows up in a bit, stream where we just kind of talk back and forth, maybe look at some fun little headlines. It's been a while, and we will
Yeah.
save our most anticipated show stream to next week, along with
Yeah.
Spider-Man freshman year. How have you been, Taz? How's it going?
I've been good. I've been doing well. It's fun to finally be back to full strength voice wise, so that's good. As Lance would say, the smooth voice is back. So
We love to see it. I mean,
yeah.
even on your off day, your voice sounds better than
Well, thank you.
everyone else combined.
I appreciate it. I try.
Hello, one Marvel fan. How's it going?
How's it going?
If anybody has any fun discussionary stuff for us to talk about, send them in the comments. We'll try and get to all of them. I haven't done those in a while. I feel like now, like when I do like the pipelines, it's like, well, I don't want to interrupt my guests by answering the comments, and I kind of hate that I can't answer comments like I used to. But
Yeah. No, but it's
no,
good. Like, just kind of if there's nothing going on, we can just literally let the chat run the show. I think
Yeah.
that's always
those are
fun.
fun. Those are really fun. I mean, how are you feeling? Like, so it's like start of the year. We're
Mhm.
looking ahead to a lot of upcoming stuff in terms of comic book stuff, Star Wars, Marvel, DC. Like, how are you feeling kind of heading into this new year? I guess we're already a month in, but like
Yeah.
going into this next 11 months in terms of media.
It's I kind of feel like this is going to be the first normal year in a while, because we had COVID, which delayed a ton of things. Then we had writer strike, actor strike,
Yeah.
that pushed and delayed a lot of things. We had a lot of studio shuffles with, changing directions. Marvel was putting out a ton of stuff at once, and then they were like, hey, maybe let's take a step back. Let's focus on quality over quantity. Star Wars, same thing. We were getting 1 to 2 Star Wars movies every year. Then they kind of slowly just shifted into shows, and that's kind of the era that we're in. But we got a little bit of news on, what the movie side of things for Star Wars is going to look like going forward. And then same thing with DC. We had, full steam ahead, 1, 2, 3 movies sometimes in a year, a bunch of projects. Obviously, we had our DC TV shows, and then everything kind of had to come to an end, and now we're slowly starting to get back into the swing of things. So I think 2025 is going to feel like, for all intents and purposes, a normal kind of back to basics year as far as content goes.
Yeah, it feels good. I feel like we're in another 2023 where everything that got pushed back because of the writer strike is now this year.
Yeah.
And I am slightly concerned because I am afraid of like the box office or just oversaturation. If last year was kind of like, oh, it's a chill year, not that much coming out. This year it's like, oh, there's a movie every week, there's a new show every week. This like February is gonna be very interesting because a lot of it we're not covering it on here, but like Reacher's back. What else is back? Yellow Jackets is about to come back, which I wanted to watch, and like all these shows, like Spider-Man, Invincible, and a
movie
couple
side,
HBO
Captain
shows.
America is coming out.
Captain America, Paddington, like it's like Dogma, like all these movies, like from the gate. February is supposed to be the like slow month, whereas like January, February is like chillax, wait, have fun until March, April, May, June, July.
Yeah. And then you got Daredevil, you've got Fantastic Four's coming out this year. We've got Superman. We've got, I'm sure there's stuff that's coming out this year that we don't even know about yet.
Yeah, for sure. We have a question, and I really like this question. Do you guys think Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and or Danny Rand are going to make an appearance in Born Again, or are they going to keep it to just having Punisher show up? This is a good question.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see any of these guys in Born Again, or maybe somewhere else in the next couple years?
So I know we briefly touched on this last week. I think from that pick, if I had to just pick one other character other than Punisher to show up, I think it would be Jessica Jones. And that's just because I think there were some rumors that she was either close to set, on set, in the same vicinity of it. But also character-wise, I feel like that would make the most sense. Like Jessica Jones was, for all intents and purposes, the most popular show next to Daredevil. As far as Marvel Netflix goes, I think it would make sense to bring her in as well. And after showing, hey, the Punisher's still here, Jessica Jones is still here, okay, that means that we might still have a Defenders team out there somewhere. You know, bring back Luke Cage 100%. Again, I'd say bring back Iron Fist too. You know, even if we go through maybe a recast, or we say there's a different version of Iron Fist coming in as well, that could be a possibility. Maybe the Danny Rand that we knew, something happened, something changed. Maybe he, died during, the 5-year time jump or something, and there's a new Iron Fist that took up the mantle. Like, whatever they want to do, I think we could eventually get ourselves to a point where we do have a, at least, revitalized Defenders team.
I agree. I think I definitely agree. I think Jessica Jones makes the most sense to me. I'm actually rewatching it right now. I just started last week. I finished Daredevil season 1. I'm on Jessica Jones season 1 this week.
Nice.
It's really good. That first season of Jessica Jones might be in contenders, and I'm only halfway through the season. But like one of the best comic book seasons of all time. Like I think that that first season, David Tennant's Purple Man, and like how
he's one of the best villains in the entire MCU.
Every episode, I'm like, how do I not remember this season being so good? Each episode is so good. I was like, is this better than Daredevil season 1? Maybe. Like it's really, really good.
It's tough to say, actually. Like in a lot of ways, I do think Jessica Jones might be a better story, like a better show in that way. Like I love Daredevil. Like I really do.
They're like,
but they're neck and neck.
Yeah.
Especially for their first seasons. Like their first seasons are both so strong.
Yeah.
And I think bring in Punisher too in that contention time, like I think Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones are like cream of the crop as far as how you do not only just a like dark, gritty, grounded series, but also something that can, spawn multiple seasons, can spawn like, a team up and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, like I've been thinking as I've been rewatching it, I was like, yes, it's part of the MCU now, but for a while, this was kind of in its own little pocket of the MCU.
Yeah.
What a great, like, foundation for a universe. Like, this kind of feels like kind of what James Gunn is trying to do with the DCU right now, where it's like, okay, it is semi-connected to the overall DCEU that we had, but each project feels connected to each other, but also very separate. Like, you don't have to watch one to understand the other. They're separate. So it's almost like that's kind of what these shows were doing.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't have to play into the the larger Avengers plotline. Yes, it happened. Yes, it affects it. Like, it takes place around or post Battle of New York. And you can see, like, kind of references and remnants of that and the fallout of it in the show. But we're not getting a Defenders team up to go fight with the Avengers.
No.
That was something that was done way far down the line. Like, the fact that we even had Matt Murdock in No Way Home was surprising to me. And I think now playing into, what we're going to get with this new season of Daredevil, I think for as much as they're saying it's going to still follow the same tone and still kind of be in the same vein as the original series, I do kind of have that fear of connection as far as, how much are they going to connect it to the wider MCU? We already have some connections there. Like Kingpin showed back up originally in Hawkeye, which I loved. I really loved his appearance, but are they setting Kingpin up to be like a, again, maybe a Defenders level threat? Like he's not just going to stay a Daredevil villain. Like, do we get a new Defenders team that is made up of Daredevil and possibly Hawkeye and Kate Bishop and that kind of thing? Like
Echo.
Yeah, Echo. Like, are these characters, maybe even She-Hulk, like, are these characters going to now be our new street-level Defenders? Even bring in Spider-Man, because we had that No Way Home connection. Yes, that would be really, really cool, but also you have to ask the question as well, would that somewhat diminish the street-level nature of these shows?
Right. I think you're definitely onto something, though. I think in terms of, like, a new Defender show, because, like, that's what I've actually wanted for years. Like I said, like, 4 years ago, it's like, just do one show, Defender show. Like, you don't have to, like, revive Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist, but have a show where it, like, you remarket that show. Because, again, I know not a lot of people love that show, but like you said, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, maybe a new Iron Fist. Maybe put Punisher in it this time around. Like you said, Kate Bishop, Hawkeye,
She-Hulk.
Echo. Like you could, and I think the views on that show would be insane. Like, everyone would want to, like, oh my gosh, it's Kate Bishop with Daredevil with She. It'd be crazy.
It'd be super cool. And maybe even too, if they don't want to reuse the Defenders title, like maybe Defenders has too much of a negative connotation. Like, people didn't love the Defenders series. What if they call it Heroes for Hire? Like, I know we wanted the Luke Cage Iron Fist team up show to be Heroes for Hire, but make this big team up show their Heroes for Hire show.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And obviously Punisher as well. You gotta remember Punisher in there too.
I do think Punisher will probably get a new something.
A new standalone. Would you like a series or a?
I think a movie.
Or a movie.
I think people would show up for a movie. Like, I think Punisher has
especially John Bernthal, man.
Punisher has its own separate fandom outside of just the Marvel fandom. Like, people like Punisher who don't know who Punisher is. They just like him as, like, a brand and an ID.
Yeah.
And if we are leaning a lot more into, like, Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion, they're like, oh, people are willing to go to a rated R Marvel movie. Okay, let's see how Blade does. Okay, let's see how Midnight Suns maybe does, if that ever comes out.
Speaking of which,
Punisher.
Moon Knight in kind of our Defenders,
I can see that.
Team up as well. A quote that I saw earlier today, I know I sent it to you and Darth, the Daredevil Born Again showrunner, saying, I'll just read the quote out and we'll kind of see what you think. But we're even more grounded, even less stylized, and even more rooted in the here and now. I loved Penguin. We're a little faster, meaner, cleaner in our storytelling. The less stylized and more rooted in the here and now, more grounded. I don't know if I love that.
Let me pull up the full quote to that, because I haven't fully read it, but I've been hearing a lot of people been saying they like took it out of context. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's the headline from Discussing Film. So it like you said, it could be a little out of context. But like, I know that word grounded is thrown around so much.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's thrown in there with less stylized, like, what do you mean by that?
It's interesting because like I saw the article the other day that was like, we're not going to have as much like dialogue scenes and stuff like that. Like, it's gonna, we're gonna cut back on that a little bit, and that at first definitely like rang the alarm bells. I was like, oh, that's like my favorite thing about the Daredevil TV show.
Is it supposed to be that slow burn? Is it supposed
that's
to
like
be a more methodical?
Yeah, like that's like making a Flash season 10 and being like, it's basically the same show, but he doesn't run as much. It's like, what?
We're gonna cut back on the jokes and cut back on the science talk just a little bit. I think we went a little too far in that.
Right. And listen, like, we've seen this stuff time and time again where like they say stuff and we're like, oh, what does that mean? And it means nothing. And it's like, oh, okay, like we were overreacting or we were blank or blank or blank.
Yeah.
I definitely don't know how I feel about like the way he's talking about the OG show a little bit though. Like it does kind of there's a little bit of like we're trying to make it better, like we're trying to fix
Yeah,
some things
it's
I
like
didn't like, and it's a
right.
little
It's like, hey,
condescending.
Daredevil was great, but Daredevil Born Again is better. And like, sure, it very well could be, but I think as the showrunner, you should also like pay your respects to what came before and say, hey, this is what was done in the past. We're on a different network. We're in a whole different, we're serving a different purpose now. Yes, I want to please the old fans, but also bring in new fans. I think that is kind of the way that you phrase it and frame your new series, because it is a new series. It's going to be, listed as Daredevil Born Again Season 1, not Daredevil Season 4.
Yeah, and that's the that's the thing I think is gonna be interesting, because honestly, I don't know if they can succeed with everybody with the show. I do think they have a upward battle, because Daredevil, let's be honest, is known as one of the greatest shows ever made, especially in the comic book community. It will probably always be regarded as one of the greatest comic book shows of all time. That's just plain and simple. For many people, it's a masterpiece, stuff like that. So they are going to really struggle. We're automatically going to be comparing it to the first 3 seasons of that original show. It's going to be really hard to convince people, or going into it like, yeah, this is good, but it's not that. It's not like that thing. So I'm going to be curious to see kind of how they approach that. Is it going to be... Because I'm okay with a slightly different show. I'm okay with a slightly different show, because it is a new show, which is why
it's born again. It has to change and evolve for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I am always someone that always wants shows to do that. I kind of don't love when a show comes back after so many years and it's just season 4, season 5, because it's like, because you chance ruining what could be one of the greatest shows of all time. Like you have the new Phineas Ferb coming out next year that I'm very excited for. I know, very different show, tonally, but it's like I don't know how I feel about that being season 5.
Yeah, it's to like me, I felt like that show had a really good definitive ending, and I didn't need any more. And it's just I feel like it's probably gonna just be, hey Ferb, what are we gonna do today?
Yeah,
it's just they're older.
I'm perfectly fine with them coming back. I just wish it was like Phineas and Ferb, new summer, or new generation, or something. Just be okay. This is a little separate thing. We don't have to deal with that.
Phineas and Ferb, the next invention.
Right, something. Let me answer some of these questions, because we did call this a Q&A, so I want to make sure people's questions are getting answered.
Chat.
Did you not like the actor who played Iron Fist? Why do you want a different Iron Fist?
I wouldn't necessarily say I didn't like the actor who played Danny Rand Iron Fist. I'm saying that in the knowing good and well that most people's reception of the show was not positive. And I feel like maybe adding a fresh take to the character could then make people more interested in the character. Right. I think, I've been playing a little bit of Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals Iron Fist is completely different from the show Iron Fist. Like, I think, if you just maybe went in a different direction with that character, you could kind of salvage the idea of that character, or keep the actor but give that character kind of a soft reboot.
Yeah. I haven't seen Iron Fist. That's one of the shows that I haven't seen. I'm excited to get to it on this. Well, I don't know if I'm excited, but I'm very curious about it, because again, I've seen Daredevil, 1 season of Jessica Jones, and Defenders, so I'm really excited to go through this. I think he's
better in Defenders than in his actual Daredevil, or in the actual Iron Fist show.
Which is why I said for years when talking bring it back, I was like, Heroes for Hire, because people may not like Iron Fist yet.
Yeah, but the Iron Fist and Luke Cage team up too is
those
great.
two work well. Yeah,
yes,
those two work really well.
Yes, they do.
So I at this point in time don't have a ball in the race, and I don't know. I have a feeling I might like it more because I'm removed from it a little bit, and I'm not an expert on Iron Fist. I also think it's interesting though. Marvel will have released 2 different versions of Iron Fist since that show in animation. One in What If recently, where
Okay.
they introduce him in like a Wild West episode. It's
Okay.
just like this new kid, and they're like, oh, look, that kid has an iron fist, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever. And we're
Yeah.
also getting an iron fist in Eyes of Wakanda this year. It's going to be
Oh.
one of the earlier iron fists in the prequel.
Interesting. Okay.
So
Okay.
maybe that's their way of like reintroducing the character to a more general audience, and also Marvel Rivals I think is doing a lot. I've heard more people talk about him in that game than I have heard his name in a very long time. Like,
He's a menace. He's a menace in that game, by the way. He's an absolute menace in that game.
Mm-hmm. So did you hear about, while we're kind of on the topic of Daredevil, I think we've kind of found our footing here. The rating for Daredevil Born Again, I think, is very interesting. Let me pull this up.
Oh, okay. I feel like definitely from that trailer, you can tell that they're leaning into the violence a lot more, which is a good thing, and they really showcase that. So I would assume it's got, for all intents and purposes, an R rating or a.
Let me
what
pull
is it?
this
MA
up.
17 or something.
So in the UK, it is rated for 18 plus in the UK.
Yeah.
And I saw this post. Hold on, let me pull up my bookmarks here really quickly. I lost it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this guy was like, dude, like nothing ever gets an 18 over here. What in God's name are they cooking with this show? And I thought that was very interesting. And like I've heard a lot of people was like, oh, that's the highest rating I've seen in a show in a long time. That has to be very violent, very dark.
Yeah.
And so that made me think, it's like, okay, that actually makes me like slightly less excited, because I am slightly worried that they're overcompensating for the fact that it wasn't going to be as violent of a show. I am slightly worried. They were like, oh, people want violent? Okay,
like,
let's
we're gonna
give
go
them
like hyper violent Tarantino level.
I don't
Daredevil.
want the boys, right? I don't want Invincible with my Daredevil, right? And I'm not saying this is bad or whatever, but I am slightly worried. Like, I hope they don't go too far in like a direction that because that first show is one of the darkest shows I've ever seen. That scene, I think it's in episode 2, where one of Kingpin's men is like, well, I've snitched on him.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna kill
he smashes his head and yeah.
It's insane. It really,
or when,
really is.
when Kingpin is smashing the dude's head in the door, in the car door.
One More fan, this is exactly it. I think this is kind of the thought I was trying to get across. I don't want it to be dark and violent just for the sake of being dark and violent. For them, like, oh, cool, people want this, so let's up it to 11. Let's go way beyond where we would have otherwise. And again, like that, like this is the opposite concern we felt like a year and a half ago. Like we were like,
oh, it's going to be Disneyfied.
Yeah.
But I think the moment too that we knew, what was it? You can't have like a kid's profile and watch it or something like that, or it's gonna be like, within the same kind of restrictions as like all the Hulu content and things like that. And I think it's also a good indication as far as if this does well, that means Marvel and Disney Plus are going to be like, oh, we can do more things like this. So that means maybe that's why they're waiting on the Moon Knight Season 2 announcement, because they're waiting to see how this plays out. And if it does, okay, then we're going to get our really like R-rated Moon Knight in the next season.
Yeah.
Maybe they're waiting on this to then announce our Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, revivals and things like that, or our Punisher new season, or even like if they do the Marvel special presentations and do maybe a Defenders movie, that'd be kind of cool too.
That'd be cool. Yeah, and you're right. Like this confirms that they are no longer afraid, and I think Deadpool and Wolverine was kind of paving the way of that. And we had said that once.
Okay, we can do some R-rated content now.
But even then, like Deadpool and Wolverine isn't like that violent. Like,
no, I think actually the first 2 movies are still
way worse,
way more violent, way more vulgar.
Outside,
you can
of
definitely
like,
tell it was still kind of like, it was violent. It was, there's a lot of cursing, but it wasn't on the same level as the first 2.
Really, yeah. And this isn't a complaint because I love that movie, but it mostly feels like a PG-13 movie with some extra swear words and a couple of blood shots thrown in there. Like,
yeah.
it doesn't feel like that much more mature than what we've kind of got in recent, or
Yeah.
like, what Daredevil was, or what we were expecting with the first two movies.
Mhm.
So like after that, I was like, okay, I'm okay with you just kind of dipping your foot into like the like R rating at first, and then getting more and more as you feel more confident.
Yeah.
This feels like you're throwing it over the edge. This is like if
like we're not...
if Deadpool was dipping your toe in, this is throwing it over the edge and hoping it sticks.
Yeah. This would be like, I'm expecting now like Logan levels of violence.
Yes, for sure. Now this is interesting. I'm excited. I also wanted, because there's a couple pieces of Daredevil news. I don't know if I saved the one. Hold on, let me find it. It was the one about the cameos. This is the one. Okay, and we kind of talked about this last week.
Mhm.
They said, I don't want to give anything away, but you're going to see a character in our show you never thought you would, but they get folded into the story in a manner that is organic and exists in our world. So we had heard there was going to be a lot of cameos, or like not a lot of cameos, but there was going to be characters from the larger MCU in this show.
Yeah.
We already know about Kamala's dad, which is a weird one, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about cameos we would want to see. For this specific quote, is there someone you have in mind? You're like, okay, I think that's who it is.
I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Spider-Man. They're gonna repay the favor, like
Cool.
even if it's not like Tom Holland. Like maybe you get like a CGI Spider-Man in the background, or like a reference to Peter Parker or something. Like I think maybe they go down that route, because again, the Daredevil Spider-Man team up is a thing,
Yeah. I'd love Spider-Man. I would adore Spider-Man. As long as it's not too dark, right? Like I don't want a bloody Spider-Man or anything.
Yeah.
If they're allowed to, like again, like at one point in time, we heard they weren't allowed. Like we couldn't get him and She-Hulk. And I know She-Hulk is like a slightly different situation, but
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
But also, didn't you or I'm not sure the context on this, but I remember seeing something about like they're not going to either reference the events of She-Hulk, or if it is referenced, it's like maybe it did, maybe it didn't happen, kind of thing. What are we thinking on that?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, because we talked with Darth last week.
Yeah.
About like he was like, are they going to reference She-Hulk? Are we going to, is like, because I was kind of hoping Jen could make a cameo. Like I wasn't expecting her to make a big part, but I thought, especially at first when we had that 18 episode season, I was like, we have time for like a Jen episode where she comes to visit him or whatever. I was never expecting them to be like exclusive, like that to be Matt's new main love interest in the MCU or anything, but I wish they would have, like, I want them to at least reference it. I want them to at least, like, I don't know how you handle it. Maybe I love She-Hulk, but maybe this is another situation of them being afraid, because that show got so much backlash, which, unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I almost feel like if we got a She-Hulk cameo, it would be something very minor. Like, maybe there's a news story, and Foggy's like, oh, didn't you, like, meet up with her that one time?
That'd be fun.
Or, like, they just, like, make a fun reference or something. I think that's, that could happen. Or maybe Punisher is like, oh, I tracked you all the way down to whatever city She-Hulk was in. I forget.
Right.
But, like, I tracked you there. I saw you in a funky yellow suit, and then I tracked you back to Hell's Kitchen or something like that. Like, that kind of thing. Or if it takes place... I think it's after, right?
I think it's after.
Yeah. Because if you saw the lineup of all the suits, or of all the cowls, like, he's got the yellow cowl and stuff like that, and with the red and the black cowl and all those things.
Yeah. Jeffrey also... comment makes a lot of sense too. I think they were waiting for this show to bring Tom Holland in, but I don't know if they would be able to keep that a secret. That's a good point. If Spider-Man was in this season, I figure someone would have leaked it. Like I haven't
Unless it
heard
was something all done on a soundstage. Like it was
Yeah.
a very small scene. Like
Right.
maybe just like a lawyery scene, like meeting with Peter Parker, just making sure like everything's okay post No Way Home, kind of, you know.
Right. And also, how do they address that now that, like, did they ever meet? Because no one knows Spider-Man, right? Or no one knows who Peter Parker is, right? So, did their meeting
Yeah.
ever take place?
Well, I mean, technically, yes, everything still happened. Just people forgot that it happened. I guess is the yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. Or will Peter have to like reintroduce himself and be like, "Hey,
Mhm.
I need
Right,
a
and then
lawyer.
that,
My name's
like-
Peter Parker." You know,
And then that like breaks the spell as people are like, oh, okay,
right?
yeah.
By the way, that Ezra Miller scene in Crisis,
Yeah.
probably the most I've ever screamed in like media, because it's like
the best kept secret ever.
that was
somehow.
insane. Like we had Ken DeGrasse on Pipeline this last week, and we were talking about his kind of on his side of the story in terms of when he leaked Lucifer, right? Like when he outed when Lucifer was gonna, the whole birthday party meme thing.
Yeah.
And it's like how big that was, and we thought like, well, you can't get big from Lucifer, and it's like, well, just someone in the DC, like just someone like from the movie, like it could have been anyone. It could have been Jason. It could have been Henry Cavill. It could have been Gal. Anyone showing up there would have been mind blowing. And the fact no one knew, no one had it was. That was the last person we would have thought was showing up in that scene. You're like, who is it? Holy shit!
Yeah.
Crazy. I want to answer. I lost a comment. Let me find it really quickly. Someone asked about the Superman trailer.
The little
what
teaser.
What did you guys think of the new TV spot that released yesterday for Superman? The sponsor line, the response online were certainly interesting. So let me pull up the trailer. Let's watch the trailer here.
Yeah, it was like what 30 seconds maybe.
It's like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So let me pull up that trailer because I was so exhausted seeing all the Superman stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
I was. I saw it worse yesterday.
I had to kind of tune it out after a while.
I saw it worse yesterday than when the trailer came out of just the Henry Cavill stands versus the David stands versus even Tyler Hoechlin stands, and
I don't even know what side of Twitter I was on. I saw this weird thread of people being like, "Oh, these are all the bad things Henry Cavill's done. I'm so glad that they replaced him with David Cornsweet and that kind of thing." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah. It's so exhausting.
I'm like, what?
And it's I was thinking about this today. It's so exhausting that the Superman fandom sucks because it's so anti-Superman.
I was literally gonna say that. It's like. Yeah, go ahead.
Superman would hate you. Superman would be like, guys, what the hell are you doing? This is dumb.
Chill out.
Just love people. This is crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Okay, let me pull it up here. Let me zoom in here really quickly. So let's just watch it. Actually, I was gonna prep it, but I was like, you know what? Can I turn the volume down? Yeah. Let me know if it's okay if you can hear it. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
God, I love that shot so much.
Yeah.
This is new, right?
Okay, that's new. Yeah, and I think that was in the theatrical or parts or a part of that scene was in the theatrical trailer.
Right. It looks so cool.
I saw somebody say that's Lex going to the fortress, which would make a lot of sense. Going to the fortress to raid it, to destroy it.
Oh, you're right. This does look like the fortress.
Yeah, and then that's how you get Superman back in the fortress with the robot that looks like he's out of commission or dead
crying,
or whatever.
Yeah. So this is probably a third act.
Or maybe something in the middle of the movie. What was it? It was a film theory. I think it was film theory.
I did see that he uploaded something about that.
Yeah. So they were saying that he distracts Clark in Metropolis with the big kaiju monster, And while that's taking place, Lex and Ultraman go to raid the fortress to try to either... I guess he's probably there to find Superman's weakness, and maybe this is where we find out about kryptonite.
Yeah. And that would be interesting. I mean, it's interesting, though, because James Gunn at first, unless he was being coy about it, he did say everything in the first trailer took place in the first act of the movie.
Yeah.
And one of these shots we did see in the first trailer. So either he was being coy and he lied to us. Yeah. Or this is in the first act for some reason. Mm-hmm. There's no way this is the first act, right?
This scene here, no, because it's not from that first trailer.
I thought there was a scene where like him in the glasses. Is that a different scene?
I think again you're talking about the maybe it's the theatrical version. Okay. Yeah, or the theatrical trailer, because again he had those glasses in that theatrical trailer that everybody was like screenshotting from the movie theater.
So okay, so he just has glasses a couple times. Okay, that's fine. This thing, and then
the kaiju.
It looks really good. Do we have any idea what this is, or do we think it's just like random kaiju number 3 or whatever?
I think it's, again, if that film theory is correct, random kaiju that Lex throws on the city to distract his actual plans.
Hey Noah, what's going on, buddy? We can frame him back up.
Yes.
Yeah, no. I'm just like again, I'm curious to see what the context of this kaiju is.
Yeah. And is it just me, or does the CGI on that kaiju actually look a little bit
It looks a little better.
It looks cleaner. Yeah, it looks a little cleaner than it did in that first teaser.
It did.
Like, he looks a little more detailed, which is already a great sign that within, a month that could be updated so drastically?
Oh, I mean, we hear about this stuff all the time. Like, we've been watching over on Eric's channel, like, we've been watching a lot of Captain America footage, and each trailer we watch, Red Hulk looks better. And like,
I've seen people talking about that. Yeah,
like people work on these movies until like the day before. Sometimes they'll be in theaters and they're still working on them.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the story on that post-credit scene for the first Avengers is that was filmed like the weekend before the movie came out or something like that, and that's why Chris Evans is sitting there like with his hand on his face to cover up his beard.
Is this a slightly different shot in this one?
Maybe a slightly different angle.
Because I never noticed the people in the background taking photos. Do you see that?
You're right.
I never noticed that the first time. So he has an audience here. Where is he?
Or other people. Those look like other cells. Like, he looks like he's in like maybe an Argus cell. So this is probably after he gets captured by Rick Flag.
Yeah. Interesting. I never would have noticed if he weren't like in here doing the work.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get through the rest of this. Same shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of this is still. Here's the one everyone's talking
flying,
about.
Yeah.
I hate Twitter so much.
I don't see a problem with it. There's no issue with it. His face is his face.
I dealt with this. I dealt with the same thing when that first poster dropped. That first poster dropped, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever! I fucking love this thing." And then everyone complained about it. I was like, "Fine, I guess I'll look at this through a critical eye. Fine, it could be better. Whatever." This is the same thing. This came out. I was like, "Holy shit, this looks amazing!" And everyone was like, "No, it doesn't." Actually, I was like, "All right, guys."
He's doing the Kessel Run.
It looks so sick. I want to see that shot on the big screen.
Yeah, I think people are blowing it out of proportion too, because it's James Gunn, and they're comparing it to the Adam Warlock scene from Guardians 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Some Batman level detective work you two are doing. I love how James Gunn had to come out and say it wasn't AI. I don't see the AI. I don't get that.
Yeah. It's like, obviously he's on a green screen. I don't think David Cornsweet can actually fly. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's obviously strapped to the wires and everything. He's on a green screen. He's got a fan blowing air in his face, and he's trying to make it look like he's somebody who can actually fly. Like,
Yeah.
Superman wouldn't have like a expression like he's going through a wind tunnel on his face. Like, he would keep a fairly straight face when he's flying because it's a normal thing. Like, you keep a fairly straight face when you're walking, you know, or even running.
I think the only I think what people are seeing is like his face jiggles a little bit when he twists.
Yeah, or maybe it's like his head is on a gimbal or something is kind of what it looks like in a weird way, is like, you know, it's always like trying to go back to center.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Again, that's like major league nitpicking. I don't see an issue with it.
It really is such... We talked a lot about this like when the Flash movie came out, and that movie was one we were slightly wrong about, where it's like, okay, some of it does look a little funky.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things when you're in the like when you're just watching it casually, you will not notice this whatsoever.
Yeah. And again, you gotta think about too, how many people are gonna watch it in theaters, but then when they're at home, how many people are gonna watch it on their phones or on their computer screens? Or, you know, we live in the real world too. How many people are gonna pirate the movie and watch it on their phone in 480p while it's still in theaters? You know? That's not they're not gonna pay attention to that.
No, they're not. No, like this is such Twitter behavior. It was like, oh, and this one shot from Twitter, it looks bad. It's like, no, you made it look bad. This is another thing that was pissing me off. People were using the like Man of Steel poster, like well compressed poster, to like one single shot that they screenshotted off of Twitter, being like, oh, look how much better this looks.
And like you said, it's on Twitter, so it is mega compressed.
Yes.
The bit rate is so low. Is like, yes, you might be playing it at 720p, but you might as well be playing it at 480p. Like, it's the same thing with YouTube. Like, even seeing the trailers on YouTube, it's not that high a quality. What's up, Lance? It's not even that high quality. Like, a lot of the times I'll go to, there's an Apple website that uploads the trailers in like lossless quality. I'll go there to get it, and it's like night and day difference how good that looks. And also, like, looking at shows on streaming, like when I go back to record off of like Disney Plus, like this Skeleton Crew episode, like it looked great when I was watching it on my TV, but actually going through it with a fine-tooth comb, like it's so compressed, and it makes me a little upset, because I'm like, I would love to see this in full like HD lossless quality without, you know, that streaming lens over it. And that's why if you want the best quality footage, you have to like rip it straight off a DVD or a Blu-ray.
For sure.
And even that's somewhat compressed. That's not going to look as good as the actual film reel in the theater.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about, we're kind of heading towards the end of our time here, but do you want to talk about the Acolyte stuff that had come out?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I was very curious about your thoughts on this, because obviously we have like slightly different takes on the show. Like, I think I thought it was okay. Like, I thought it was all right. You really liked it. But I kind of got caught in the crossfire by the fandom a little bit, because when when it was canceled, I was like, hey, this isn't my favorite show either, but I was so pissed that so many people were choosing to celebrate a cancellation. That's one of my like core things on here. It's like, hey, just don't watch a show you don't like. That is fine. And people on here being like, yes, I don't have to watch another season. It's like, you never had to. You never had to do that. It pisses me off to no end.
And it's like, again, none of this is required reading either. Like you said, you pick and choose. And now with the Star Wars catalog being as vast as it is, you watch the first couple of episodes of this thing and it doesn't meet the vibe check. You know, if you don't enjoy where the story's going, you don't have to watch it. Like, don't look at it if you don't like it.
No, for
like
sure.
You go to, you know, I'll make a silly analogy. You go to McDonald's, you don't like the Big Mac. You don't have to say, I hate McDonald's, Big Mac sucks. Just get a fillet of fish. Yeah. Get some nuggets. Get something that you enjoy. It's there for the people that like it, but you don't have to get it.
Life is
You know?
way too short to be
Yeah.
consuming stuff you don't like or don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, find stuff that you love. Which is why I almost kind of dropped the show midway through, which I'm glad I didn't, because I do think it got better with each episode. But like, I was finding myself at a spot where it's like, I don't like this. I also don't hate it. Like, I was like, yeah, this is okay. You know, this is for me. And you know, I wasn't like, I kind of wanted to prove a point to people. Be like, if you don't like something, just don't watch it. That's fine.
Yeah. I feel like
but
I've been
this
a
I
lot more
thought,
critical
yeah,
with like with dropping shows early. Like I will give it a few episodes, but if I don't like it, I don't like it and I don't watch it.
yeah,
Like I've mentioned it before. Umbrella Academy. I watched like maybe 4 or 5 episodes. I was like, this show isn't for me. I didn't go on the internet and say Umbrella Academy is the worst show ever. I hate it. Like I hope they cancel the show and everybody gets fired.
Yeah.
Like no, it's just like it's not for me. People who enjoy it, great. I didn't vibe with the show.
Right. So I found this to be really interesting. So Star Wars: The Acolyte was the #2 show on Disney Plus in 2024, with over 2.7 billion minutes watched. Now, I think this is interesting because we had heard it had bad ratings. They had said, "Oh, it just didn't meet our qualifications. It didn't meet our whatever." And then their excuse a couple months ago was, "Well, we didn't renew it for a new season because it cost too much, because it had too high of a budget." And to that I say, either one, bullshit, or two, you need to readjust how you make your shows. Because what you would then want to do is say, hey, if it's getting this much views, it's #2 on our whole platform this year, but it's too much, just reduce the budget. Give them a smaller budget for the new season. Then you're just making money. That's how money works. You like any other company knows that, hey, if a thing is popular, but we're putting too much into it, put less into it and get the same amount of stuff back. I don't understand. We have seen shows do more with less of a budget, I think. Shows like Superman and Lois, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., stuff like that. Network TV Lost all those years ago. Network TV used to work on like a dime an episode, right? Like they had nothing and they would make something really, really special. I think Disney Plus needs to reevaluate how they make their TV shows, because they're spending way too much.
Way too much money. When you're spending more money on a TV show than a blockbuster film, you've got a problem. Yeah. Especially when your episodes are like 30 minutes maximum. Like, where is that budget going towards? Right. Like, it's definitely not the marketing either, because I feel like these shows are not marketed very well.
No, they're not. And
like, I guess, where does their monetization lead with this much viewership? Like, the #2 show on Disney Plus, 2.7 billion with a B minutes watched. Like, that seems like a lot. Yeah. 1 billion is a large number, and they got 2.7 of them. You gotta make some money off of that. Like, how is that not enough to, like you said, even fuel a lower budget second season or something? Like, I really think they are just covering their own butts and being like, hey, there was so much, not only criticism of the show, but attack on the cast and crew and creatives and the writers behind it, that they were like, okay, no, we're shutting this down. Like, we're not going to allow this negativity, and we're not going to allow it to be continued to be publicized. So we're going to sweep this under the rug, call it a loss, and move on to the next thing, because they're Disney and they have a million ideas all at once, and they can, start the next big thing, and it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things to them. Yep. But there are people like myself, like you, who either didn't mind the show or, in my case, actually enjoyed the show. Yeah. And, Darth Bunyan's not here tonight, but, he enjoyed the show too, from what I can tell. Yeah. He loves it. Yeah. So, and again, there are people who actually really love this show. I really enjoyed the show too. I made a whole video defending the show. Not just because I watched it week to week and actually enjoyed it, but I saw that there was so much animosity online and so much negativity that I was like, I want to throw my hat in the ring for the right thing.
Right.
Like, people will make a big video on something that was really, really popular and say, actually, this thing kind of sucked. And it'll
Yeah.
pop off. So I was like, you know what? Let me
Yeah.
do that, but in reverse, and see what happens. And my experiment worked,
Yeah.
is I got a ton of negative feedback on it saying, oh, you're stupid. Like, how can you like this show? That kind of thing. But it got viewership.
Yeah.
It's still one of, in the grand scheme of things, in the upper echelon as far as viewership on my channel goes. And it makes sense because people actually watch the show. You would have had to actually watch some of the show to say that you don't like it. And if you're saying you don't like the show without watching it, then you have no argument.
There's a lot of hate watching going on.
Yeah.
People that normally wouldn't even care about Star Wars were like, oh, geeks and gamers are talking about it. Okay, I'll go to hate watch and before I can hate on the show. And I just hate that mentality. And one Marvel fan, I think you're right. I think you're right. They say, I think unfortunately Disney and Hollywood in general, to be honest, has become so afraid of taking risks that anything that isn't super successful isn't going to last. And I think you're right. And I think you're right
100%.
about, like, they were trying to escape general perception. General perception told them, this sucks, so it sucks, and get rid of it, and wipe it under the rug. And that's unfortunate. And again, I never want shows to get canceled after one season. I think, especially in their case, I love when a show can have an okay or mid kind of first season or whatever, and then get a second season, a third and fourth, and improve itself over time.
Yeah.
Because I think season 2 would have been better than season 1. They had set the foundation to make something really cool. They had set up some really cool things at the end of the season there, some arcs up, some characters up. I think season 2 would have been better.
Yeah, and wouldn't you have loved that redemption arc for the show? Is like, you have your core fan base that actually really enjoyed season 1 and saw the potential. You have your side of the fan base that was hating on the show, or in a perfect world, this side of the fan base was like, oh, this isn't my cup of tea, this isn't for me. Then they're like, cool, we're going to take that feedback, we're going to make season 2. Season 2 comes out in, year and a half's time from then, and everybody's like, whoa, this is a step up in quality. I can see they actively tried to fix the things that we didn't enjoy from that first season.
Yeah.
And we're actually heading in a direction of a really cool story here. Like, wouldn't you have loved to see that, versus them saying, without saying it, okay, the negativity works. Like, they're now telling the fan base, hey, if you are so just adamant online about hating a thing and, saying that it should be canceled, we're going to cave and give into that negativity and cancel it. In the same vein as, like, people with Justice League release the Snyder Cut and all that kind of thing, is it devolved into absolute chaos. And they backed Warner Brothers up into a wall, and they were like, fine, we'll release it,
Yeah.
But again, they fed into that negativity more than they should have.
Man, this is something I've thought about for a while, because you're right. Because like when that was announced, I wasn't very happy with it. I got some flack online. I was like, I'll watch it. I think it can be cool. But I was very mad that for one, they let the bullies win, and two, they were moving backwards instead of forwards where I wanted them to go. And we've been seeing this a lot lately. We saw this with Justice League. It worked out for them, but Sonic, when that trailer came out,
I mean, I think that Sonic is a little bit of maybe a better example. Like, it didn't seem as bad. It seemed like people were like, hey, we don't like this design, and they were like, cool, great feedback, awesome.
Right.
But then you see this in all fandoms and all facets of things. Like, I'm somebody who's really into the Call of Duty community right now, right? Like, I make Call of Duty content from time to time. That's where I started my channel, mostly focusing on zombies and stuff like that. And I saw so much backlash and negativity on things. Like, when they would make certain patches and implement them into the game, people would just rag on, Call of Duty and Activision and Treyarch for all of these things that they were doing. And then they'd revert changes and things like that. But, like, if there could just be a a positive, like, open dialogue between fandom and company producing a product, whether that be a show, a movie, a game, anything else in between, we'd be in a much better spot. But again, I know that's not realistic.
No, it's I'll be honest, like I think right now, like I'm very like concerned with the current trajectory of media and stuff like that. Like I think like what Star Wars is doing, like I think what we're telling Star Wars right now is like, hey, we'd rather the same characters return again and again. Same thing's happening with Marvel. Downey and Evans are back after just a short time. Like I'm a defender of of sequels and reboots, but like there's a lot of them every day. There's something new. Like there's a lot, and with AI is taking off in such a way.
And that was a big thing with Call of Duty for a while too. Is like they replaced some of the voice actors without even announcing it, just with different voice actors because of the gaming voice actor strike, which is still going on.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a lot of stuff. And again, shows not getting their proper... I know the answer to this question will be, well, life isn't fair, but these shows not given their fair ups. Because again, there was a time when you could have a somewhat mediocre first season, but draw the attention of a fan base, get a nice tight-knit community, and then season 2 you grow on that. Season 3 you grow on that. Season 4 you grow on that. And then, before you knew it, in 5-6 years you had 6 or 7 pretty solid seasons that come to a good, decent conclusion, and you can look back on it and say, hey, we might have started off a little rocky, but we ended off really strong.
Right. And tell me if I'm wrong, didn't Clone Wars get a lot of hate when that show first came out?
It got a lot of hate when the movie first came out, and season 1 and 2 were not super well received. And even nowadays, when people talk about it, they will talk about, oh, those earlier seasons had so many like filler episodes. People didn't love Ahsoka at all, and she has become a fan favorite character. She has one of the greatest arcs in all of Star Wars. She's one of my favorite characters, and even I, as a kid, I was like, 8 years old when Clone Wars came out, and I was like, oh, like Anakin didn't have a Padawan. What is this? Like, she's kind of annoying. All this kind of stuff. And then when you actually got to see the full story play out, you're like, oh, this is what they were doing. They actually really, they cooked, for a lack of a better term. Like, you gotta allow them time to cook. You put your dinner in the oven, and if you want it quicker than normal, it's not going to be cooked all the way through. But if you give it the time, you let it crisp up a little bit, the flavors are gonna, kind of release into there and everything, and it's gonna come out, and it's gonna turn out much better than if you were to rush through it, pop it in the microwave for 2 minutes, and then you're eating soggy French fries.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about this like a handful of weeks ago, but like there is a legitimate concern about like this generation's television, because it's either all our television or our parents' generation shows coming back, or they're not done. Shows are getting canceled. The current generation isn't going to have completed shows at their
No.
They're not going to have their Flash, their Vampire Diaries, their Supernatural, their Breaking Bad, their
Prison Break, Dexter, And even those shows came back eventually. Prison Break got a season 6. Dexter's gotten like 5 revivals, a prequel, and whatever. You're either not getting good new or quote unquote good new ideas, which is causing these shows to be canceled prematurely, or studios are not willing to take those risks and they're bringing back old things. Like even Nickelodeon and Paramount, they made a Thundermans revival movie and then a new show. They just released the Henry Danger movie, which, side note, was actually really good, really well made, shot very well. And I'm sure they have, plans for it, maybe another movie or another series, something like that. So it's so weird to see the spot that we're in. Like, you're right, is there's so much like returning media, and they're afraid to branch out and do new things. And
Yeah.
there's been news about the Rey movie, of like, it's been going back and forth between, is it going to be Rey like 15, 20 years in the future, like as an Obi-Wan Kenobi style figure, or is it going to take place a little bit closer to the sequels? Like, there are rumors like Ryan Gosling's gonna be in the movie, and she's gonna like pass the mantle onto him, and like, what is going on there? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Is like I hope that eventually all of these studios can be like, hey, we have an idea, we have a story, we want to let it play out, and let's just see how it plays out. Even if one movie doesn't do so well, two movies don't do so well, let's just try to see it through to the end. It would be like, backing out of every game you play just because you die immediately when you start off. Like, people will do that, but you got to stick it out and actually see if you can, bring it back and, get a comeback there,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But with that being said, I do think that is our time today.
Yes.
I very much enjoyed our little Darren and Taz variety hour.
Yeah, it was
something
fun.
a little different than our normal content here. Current plan. Next week we have Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. The first episode drops, and we're gonna try and squeeze in our most anticipated shows of the year ranking, which did include Spider-Man. So I guess I'll keep that on there for like the rest of the season. But yeah, guys, again, thank you so much. Taz, where can people find you? Where are you?
YouTube.com/ToxicTaz. In the process of getting that Skeleton Crew video up, and then hopefully tons of Call of Duty Zombies stuff.
Amazing. Join. Yes, that Aftercut should be back next Tuesday, I think. No, sorry, Monday. Next Monday. And then join me for the pipeline this Thursday. Connor's back on the show. We're continuing our MCU retrospective this week with Thor and Captain America: The First Avenger, just in time for Captain America 4 in a couple weeks. That should be very, very fun. And without further ado, everybody, we will see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.